What's going on, folks? I just wanted to take a minute and talk about the Cobra rear suspension that I have in the Foxbody. I covered this in an earlier video, but not a lot of you guys have probably seen that one, so I'm going to go over it again and just talk about it in a little bit more detail. So first off, a lot of the videos that you see on YouTube that show the install or conversion of an IRS into a Foxbody way overcomplicate things. It's not the easiest thing in the world, but it's probably slightly more difficult than reinstalling your factory axle. So I'll go ahead and show you what needs to be done in order to put a Terminator style or Cobra independent rear suspension into your Foxbody. So first off, you're going to drop your stock axle out, and you're going to notice that the front of the IRS subframe bolts into the old axle locations. So there's only 4 points where this subframe mounts in. 2 of them go into the control arm joints, and 2 of them have their own brackets, and we'll get to that in just a second. The shocks bolt into the same shock mounting location. The brake lines, you're gonna have to tee your brake lines, and you can't really see it that well, but that's not the craziest thing that you have to do in the world. It's the same thing that you would have to do if you were to convert your axle to a 5-lug axle. You just have to tee the brake lines and put new brakes on there, new brake lines on there. So I'm running the Cobra brake lines, of course the Cobra brakes. There's no conflict there as far as the master cylinder is concerned. The stock Foxbody master cylinder is good enough for the Cobra brakes. Now we get to back here. This is where the conversion actually occurs. So when you buy your IRS setup, try to make sure that it comes with the IRS brackets. I believe that's what they're called, but basically these are the brackets that are going to connect your rear of your IRS subframe to your quad shock bolt. So if you look at this bolt right here, this is actually where the quad shock would mount in. If you have a Foxbody GT or an LX, a V8 car, your quad shock would mount here and go down to the rear axle to help stabilize that. Not all cars have quad shocks. If you look at this little bump here, this is where the hole used to be. It's filled in with weld now, but the hole used to be here in the bracket. What the other videos on the internet will do is actually drill this hole out and then relocate it here just so you can bolt it in, which is crazy to me. If you're going to do all that welding, you might as well just weld it in the way that you have here. So what I've had done here is there's just a notch taken out of the bracket. The bolt was threaded in, kind of sandwiched in there in between the frame, and the whole bracket has been welded in at this point. So really the bolt could come out and it wouldn't really make any difference, but it's bolted and welded in. That was the easy way to do it. If you go on premiumfuelmag.com, there's also an alternative method. If you wanted to skip welding altogether, you can actually modify this bracket, add material to it. Welding is going to have to happen anyway, but you could weld material to it, square that off, and then drill yourself a new hole. That way you could bolt it into the stock location. Now, the only reason you would want to go the route of modifying your brackets and making it fully bolt in is if you felt like maybe you might want to take the brackets out later and convert back to a solid rear axle. I just went ahead and permanently installed mine. I figured I would either like the independent rear suspension or I was just going to get rid of the car because it doesn't make sense to do all that work to convert it and then convert it back. Now mind you, that's only the brackets that are permanently installed, not the IRS. This bolt here, and then 2 on the other side doing the same thing. There's only 4 bolts holding this thing in. The IRS can go in and out of the car just like it does on a 03, 04 Cobra. Next up, you see these 2 silver bolts down here. Those bolts actually go straight up into the trunk of the car. Alright, taking a look inside the trunk, here you can see where the 2 bolts from the frame actually come upwards, and I've got some pretty beefy reinforcements here welded in. There's a neater way to do this, but this was an after install for me because it was actually starting to pull through the floor. You're going to have some kind of reinforcement here. This is more than enough what I have here, but if I could redo this, I would redo it a little bit more neatly. But that's pretty much it for the IRS install. You only have to drill these 2 places here and do a little bit of welding, And that's all the modification your Foxbody will need in order to get that IRS into where you want it to go. That's about it, folks. Thanks for watching.